السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. نحمده ونصلي على رسول النبي الكريم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. قال الله تعالى في شأن حبيبي إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على سيدنا مولانا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه على سيدنا مولانا محمد وبارك وسلم عليه صلاة وسلام عليك يا سيدي يا رسول الله. A few weeks ago, we keep talking about various things and asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us from the fitna of dajjaal. So, I'd mentioned where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said in most narrations, those who recite the first 10 verses of Surah Kahf every day, and some include the first 10 as well as the last 10, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will protect them from the fitna of dajjal. So, I said we'd kind of go over the connection there, because there are, everything is connected. And when we look at, Surah Kahf, and we look at these verses, most people, unfortunately, can't draw that connection with the fitna of dajjal and with what the verses are saying. And in order to basically look at the connection as well, or find the connection, we have to understand who dajjal is, what the fitna is. Because the fitna is already here. The fitna is all around us, and we're seeing this every day. We see all of these issues that come up. And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala expelled shaitan, shaitan made that statement after asking for respite in Surah Araf, where he says that I will come to them from their front and from their back and from their right and from their left. And you will find most of them ungrateful. وَلَا تَجِدُ أَكْثَرُهُمْ شَاكِرِينَ. Most of them will be ungrateful. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala equates ungratefulness with kufr. فَاذْكُرُونِي يَذْكُرُكُمْ وَاشْكُرُوا لِي وَلَا تَكْفُرُونَ. Remember me, I will remember you. And do shukr, be grateful, and do not do kufr. And so, this world, of course, is the world of Darul Huzn. It is the world of difficulties, calamities. And this is the test that we've been sent in. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has adorned the fire with ease. And He has surrounded Jannah with trials and tribulations. And in order to attain, or rather go back home, because of course the first home of insan or mankind is Jannah. This is where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala placed Adam al-Islam after creating him, and then sent him to the earth. So the earth actually is, even though this was the purpose of the coming of Adam al-Salam, He says that I will create a vicegerent on earth, but then He places him in Jannah. So that is our actual home. And this is what we should yearn to go back to. But again, He surrounded that with all these difficulties, and part of the main, or one of the biggest trials and tribulations is the fitna of dajjal. This is why every prophet told his people about this fitna. And why Rasulullah SAW told us things that no one else told them about Dajjal. You know, if you look at the system that exists, you know, that's basically ruling the world today. You know, and this again is the fitna of Dajjal, and they create their own problems, and then they come around and they give us a solution for it. But if you truly analyze the solution Islamically, the solution that they're giving us is worse than the initial problem that they created. And this is what's going on even now. You know, we see what's going on various places in the world. And of course, in this land of freedom of speech, even using certain words becomes an issue. Even using certain names becomes an issue. With all of the freedoms. You know. So they've created all these problems. And then they're going to come around and give us the solution for it. You know, and the sad thing about all of this is that many amongst the Muslim world are looking towards them for a solution. You know, looking towards the non-Muslims to come and fix our problems. You know, it's funny. Funny meaning sad here. You know, it's sad. You know, when the first Gulf War broke out, I remember, you know, 91, and in Kuwait, you had this guy, and this is before, you know, the military from here goes over there. So you have this guy in the middle of the street in Kuwait yelling out, "Oh, Bush, come and save us." And the reason, the more, you know, is sad by itself, but one of the reasons it's even more sad is all of these so-called scholars who at the drop of a hat create, you know, say this is shirk and this is haram and this is kufr, said absolutely nothing. And when these people were invited over, they defended that invitation. So these same people who declare the Muslims as kafir had no problem when the non-Muslims were being invited into Muslim land. These same scholars had no issue when the headline read on the very same day in the newspaper that, you know, Saudi allowing the import of pork, at the same time Israel banning the import of pork. No problem with that. But when it comes to honoring Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then everything's become shirk and haram and bid'ah. So again, when we look at these verses of Surah Kahf, you know, because I was listening to one clip, and this guy asked this so-called, I don't know, supposed scholar, about the connection between the verses of Surah Kahf and Dajjal, because the interviewer saying, I don't see that connection. What is the connection? So he went into this 20-minute spiel and never got to the verses and never answered the question. So, you know, of course, even before you get into the verses, we're all commanded before we recite the Quran, "A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim," which in itself should be an indication. You know, I seek refuge with Allah from shaitan, the accursed or outcast. Because the fitna of Dajjal is really the fitna of shaitan. and then Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. And everything we do should start with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. And because everything that we do should be for the pleasure of Allah and His Messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Even the famous hadith, "Innamal a'malu binniyat," that every action is by its intention. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam didn't end the statement here. He continues on so that there's no confusion. And he gives the example of the hijrah. And he says that whoever immigrated ilallahi wa rasulihi, towards Allah and His Messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He immigrated for Allah and His Messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So everything we do is for the pleasure of Allah and His Messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And so we start with Bismillah, and we understand that Allah is Rahman ar-Rahim, because this was a new concept for Quraysh. This was one of their issues. They said, "Oh, we don't know who this Rahman ar-Rahim is." And then they started saying, "Oh, this Rahman is some jinn that is talking to him." Astaghfirullah. And that jinn's name is Rahman. And of course, Islamically, Rahman ar-Rahim is the most central concept of our understanding of Allah. So the verses start off with Alhamdulillahi alladhi anzala ala abdihi Alhamdulillahi alladhi anzala ala abdihi al-kitab wa lam yaj'al lahu 'iwaja. Praises to Allah. Hamd, which is defined or translated as praise. It's, of course, Arabic is a root-based language. So ha, mim, dal, hamd. You have derivatives from hamd. And if you look at the four main derivatives of hamd, they are all the names of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. All the praise is for Allah, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala orders us to praise His Habib sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Hamid, the one who praises. Ahmad, the one who praises in excess, excessively praises. Hamid, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is Hamid. But then in front of all of the rest of creation, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is Ahmad. Because no one can praise Allah like Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam praises Allah. This is why His name in the heavens is Ahmad. This is why Isa al-Islam foretold His coming by that name. Because compared to all of the other rest of creation, including all of the rest of prophets, no one can praise Allah like Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam praises Allah. And even in the hadith, which is in Sahih Bukhari, on the Day of Judgment, when no one will dare come forward to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to begin the judgment. And eventually all of creation, after going through the various prophets, will come to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he will, all of the rest of them said, "Idhabu ila ghayri," go to someone else. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam will say, "Ana laha," I am for this. And he will come and he will prostrate before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in such a way that no one had ever imagined that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could be praised in this manner. And again, who is there? All of creation. All of mankind, all of jinnkind, all of the angels are there, including all of the prophets. And none of them had ever imagined that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could be praised in such a manner. He is Mahmud, the one who is praised. And then above that, he is Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the one who is excessively praised, the one whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself praises. So when we're reading these verses, we need to keep all of this in, not just in our minds, but in our hearts. And again, as I said, these are the verses that should protect us from the fitna of dajjal. And if we are falling into that fitna, then the question is why? You know, there are many who recite these verses and are still falling into this fitna. Because if the aqidah is not proper, then nothing else matters. So, praise is for Allah, who has sent His servant, or has revealed to His servant the book. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala defines Himself. Who is Alhamdulillah, Alladhi, the one who revealed to His servant the book, the Quran. And then He explains the book, that in this book there is no crookedness. You know, right in the beginning we ask for what? Ihdina as-sirata al-mustaqim, that straight path. The path is not crooked. If we find something crooked, then that's within ourselves. قيما لينذر بأسا شديدا من لدنه ويبشر المؤمنين الذين يعملون الصالحات أن لهم أجرا حسنا. And He has made it straight in order that He may warn the godless of a terrible punishment from Him, and that He may give glad tidings to the believers who work righteous deeds, and they shall have a goodly reward. So after He explains or tells us, you know, all of these things, then He gives the warning to those who choose not to follow this path. And then He gives the glad tidings to those who follow the path. And He sent His Habib Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam as both Bashir and Nadir. You know, the giver of glad tidings and the warner. And then the reward, He says, مَاكِثِينَ فِيهِ عَبَدًا, that whoever attains this reward, it is forever. You know, which is interesting because, you know, you have all of these people, and especially these days, you have this shift towards atheism. And part of their argument is that, you know, of course, they see randomness in everything, whereas we see order in everything. They also, you know, when they see atrocities being committed, then part of their argument is that, oh, you know, how could a merciful God allow this to happen? That's what they say. You know, and some tragedy happens, and then you see even their preachers talking about this, saying, why did God let this happen? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us choice. And within that choice, all of these things happen. And if you look at those things happening, those are our own choices. But then, they come back and go, well, why does he let it happen? Well, if he didn't let it happen, then there would be no choice. If he forced upon us whatever, then there's no choice. He's given us this choice. And not only has he given us this choice, we accepted the choice. Because he offered this choice to all of the rest of creation. He offered it to the angels. And he mentions this in the Quran, where he offered it to the angels, he offered it to the mountains, he offered it to the earth. But they also understood, they looked at it from the standpoint that if we take this choice and we do not uphold the choice, then there are consequences. Mankind accepted the choice because mankind looked at it from the standpoint of the reward for fulfilling the choice or fulfilling the will of Allah is also very immense. It is forever. So we accepted that choice. So now if we complain about why is this happening, again, these are what our own hands have sent forth. That is on us. وَيُنذِرُونَ الَّذِي قَالُوا اتَّخَذَ اللَّهُ وَلَدًا. Further, that he may warn those who say Allah hath begotten a son. This, of course, is directly towards the Christians. But also, if we understand Dajjal, because when Dajjal comes in the physical form, he will declare himself as God. And the people will follow him. Because, as we said earlier, he will come with the solution that they themselves have created. The problem. The solution to a problem that they themselves have created. Even though his solution will not be the correct solution. And so everybody will flock to him. Because everybody will be tired of all of the problems. This is, and again, we're in the time of the fitna of Dajjal, and if you look throughout the world, all of these issues that have come up, all of them driving the people away from Islam. There are places where you make Islam so difficult on the people. You present Islam in such a manner to a people who have been practicing Islam for a long time. You present this new form of Islam to them that is so difficult. Everything is haram. Everyone is kafir. Everything is shirk and everything is bid'ah. That you drive the people away from the religion. And after 2 or 3 generations, then you have a generation that says, if this is the religion, we don't want anything to do with the religion. And once you get them to that state, then you come back with something, now we got a new religion for you. That wasn't Islam, this is Islam. But instead of being the median way, like Islam is, you take it from one extreme to the other extreme. So it's still not really Islam. But now everything's easy. And if you look, even in so-called Muslim countries, things that no one could have imagined even 20 years ago as being acceptable are now acceptable. You know, and again, I'm not talking about like here. I'm not talking about non-Muslim countries right now. I mean, that's what we should expect from non-Muslim countries. But even in Muslim countries, things that the people would not have stood for or even thought of allowing to happen 20 years ago are now no problem. Because again, the mindset, you know, you've changed the mindset over these generations. And it doesn't take long. I mean, people don't think about this. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed what? Rabiul Awwal of the 11th year of Hijr. Imam Hussein as Islam was martyred when? Muharram, 61 Hijri. Not even 50 years. From a solar standpoint, 48 years. So you go from a mindset where you have the grandsons of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam being honored in such a manner to a mindset to where he's being martyred along with the rest of his family. And again, not even 50 years. You know, and if you look at those who are perpetrating the fitna of dajjal today, and they've been doing this, you know, for the last few centuries, they are very patient. And the example I like to keep giving is the East India Trade Company. You know, the British East India Trade Company was formed in 1600. Purpose of which was to take over India, which was being ruled by the Muslims. When did they do that? 1857. 257 years later. This is just a continuation of their work. One generation goes by, another generation goes by, it didn't matter. So when we look at all of this fitna as it, you know, basically prepares mankind, and even that word now, you can't even use that, which is funny. And I remember after 2001, one of my high school teachers, who was also a professor at Mercer University in English, teaching an English literature class, and part of it was on Islamic literature. So he asked me to come and speak. This was right after 9/11. And I was talking, and I kept talking about man. And I'm using the term man in the sense of mankind. And this one of, you know, when we got to the question and answer, this one person kept asking me, and I realized into the questioning that, oh, you know, she's taking man as man and male and female. I mean, the concepts have become so messed up that even terminology that was, you know, common 20 years ago now, you know, you can't even use. And if you use it, no one understands it. I'll just say one last word, which is not totally related to what we're talking about. That also shows us how the Quran has been preserved. Not only the words, but even how to say the words. Even the English language. Shakespeare They don't even know how the words were pronounced back then. I mean, language changes over time. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent this religion, sent this Quran to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, not to be changed. So that even today, for those who want, it's still there. I'll end here today. Inshallah, we'll go over some of the other verses next week and try to connect them with the fitna of dajjal and why they are important for us to understand, to protect ourselves and our family from that fitna. And so, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala fill our hearts with His love and the love of His beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his family, his companions, and all of those whom they love. And may He protect our brothers and sisters in Gaza and give them victory. And may He remove those who are the oppressors. Those who are not made sunnah, go ahead and make sunnah, inshallah.